The Vatican is trembling with whispers tonight, and across the world, millions are stunned by what has just been revealed. Cardinal Luis Tagle has finally spoken, and what he said about Pope Leo XIV has left the entire Catholic Church speechless. In an unexpected turn that no one saw coming, the sacred corridors of St. Peter's Basilica echoed with words that may shape the course of the Church for years to come. For behind the marble pillars, beneath the glistening dome that has stood for centuries as a beacon of faith, a new and mysterious chapter unfolds, and Cardinal Tagle now stands at its very center. It all began only days ago. On May 24, 2025, in a move that many are calling deeply symbolic and others quietly label as prophetic, Pope Leo XIV personally appointed Cardinal Tagle as the new titular bishop of the Suburbicarian Diocese of Albano. But this was not just any appointment. The Suburbicarian sees are the most ancient and prestigious dioceses in the Roman Catholic Church, reserved for the highest ranking among the College of Cardinals. And Albano itself holds a hidden significance. It was this very diocese that Pope Leo XIV himself held before ascending to the throne of Peter. And now, it is being entrusted to Tagle. For some, this was simply a ceremonial gesture, but for many inside the Vatican, it was something far more loaded. A transfer of spiritual authority, a gesture of profound trust, or perhaps even a signal of future intentions, yet unrevealed. Whispers began to spread inside the Apostolic Palace. Why? Albano? Why now? Why Tagle? But the story does not stop there. During the sacred inauguration of Pope Leo XIV on May 18th, a moment watched by millions of believers, leaders, and seekers across the world, it was none other than Cardinal Tagle who was given the highest honor, placing the ring of the fisherman on the finger of the new pontiff. That small but powerful gesture, almost lost to the casual observer, marked something profound. The ring, a symbol of Peter's authority handed down through unbroken succession, was not placed by any random cardinal, but by Tagle himself. The moment their hands touched, many watching whispered, "This is not accidental." As the world saw the two figures standing side by side, one in the pure white robes of the Vicar of Christ, the other draped in crimson, hands steady yet reverent, an unspoken message rippled through the College of Cardinals. The bond between Pope Leo XIV and Cardinal Tagle is not merely one of formality. It is something deeper, something divinely orchestrated. And yet, even amidst this solemnity, came a strange twist that added a human, almost prophetic layer to the drama. In a recent interview, Cardinal Tagle recounted a moment from within the conclave, a conclave whose outcome stunned even the most seasoned Vatican observers. As the votes mounted and the name of Robert Prevost began to rise, the room was thick with tension. The weight of destiny was tangible. But seeing the growing anxiety on then Cardinal Prevost's face, Tagle, calm and disarmingly gentle, reached into his pocket, pulled out a simple piece of candy, and handed it to the man who was moments away from becoming Pope Leo XIV. "My first act of charity to the new pontiff," Tagle would later joke. But behind the humor was something profound. In that small gesture, some saw a symbol, a moment of grace in the midst of a great spiritual storm. Others whispered, was this a foreshadowing? A moment guided by the Holy Spirit? But what came next has truly shaken the faithful. When finally asked about his view of Pope Leo XIV, Cardinal Tagle did not hold back. His words, drenched in both admiration and awe, have since spread like wildfire through Catholic circles. He spoke of Pope Leo XIV as a man uniquely chosen for this hour, a man of profound humility, of deep prayer, of silent authority that does not demand submission, but draws it naturally. "He leads by listening," Tagle said, his voice steady. "He leads with a heart shaped by the missions, by the poor, the forgotten, and the wounded of this world." He continued, "This is a pope not molded by the power structures of Rome, but by the quiet whispers of the Spirit in distant lands." He carries the warmth of a shepherd who has walked among the lost, and the steadiness of a servant who knows who he ultimately serves. And then, as the interview progressed, the cardinal paused. There was a weight behind his eyes, as if holding back more than he dared to reveal. The interviewer, sensing the gravity, leaned in. "Is there more to this, Your Eminence?" Tagle smiled faintly. And then, with a calm yet loaded voice, he uttered the words now echoing across the church. "There are seasons appointed by heaven, and certain hands are prepared for certain keys. The Lord has positioned his servant at this time, and we are all witnesses to something far greater than ourselves." In that moment, many believe Cardinal Tagle was saying far more than his words alone conveyed. Was this a quiet confirmation of prophetic currents stirring within the Vatican? A subtle nod to mysteries yet unseen? Or a foreshadowing of events still to come? As some believe, Pope Leo XIV's papacy may usher the Church into an unprecedented season of purification, trials, and perhaps even fulfillment of long-standing Marian and Fatima prophecies. Inside the Curia, the rumors grow thicker. Some say Cardinal Tagle has become not only a trusted advisor to the Pope, but perhaps, in ways still veiled, part of a divine plan unfolding in real time. The appointment to Albano, the placing of the ring, the private acts of charity, and now these cryptic words, when placed together, form a puzzle that many theologians and Vatican watchers are racing to decode. But beneath all the speculation lies an even more haunting question, one that echoes in the silence of the Sistine Chapel long after the lights dim. What does heaven see coming for the Church? And perhaps more unsettling, what role will Cardinal Tagle and Pope Leo XIV play in the events that are now rapidly accelerating before our eyes? Even as the faithful across the world marvel at the growing closeness between Pope Leo XIV and Cardinal Tagle, deep within the sacred chambers of Rome, a tension is silently building. It is a tension that few dare speak aloud, but many feel in their bones. For this is not merely a friendship between two churchmen. It is the unfolding of something far more cosmic, far more prophetic, something that touches upon the very foundations of Catholic prophecy, the whispers of Fatima, the visions of countless saints, and the warnings long sealed inside the walls of the Vatican itself. Behind closed doors, certain high-ranking members of the Curia have begun to voice their unease. They see the hand of providence at work, but fear what it may soon demand. The appointment of Cardinal Tagle to Albano was not simply a ceremonial promotion. It was a placement in position, as though heaven itself is arranging its pieces on the great chessboard of salvation history. For centuries, Albano has been more than a title. It is a see historically linked to moments of transition, times when the Church stood on the threshold of profound change. And now, Tagle holds that seat. Some Vatican insiders have begun referring to him, behind whispered breath, as the bridge. A man who, though not seated upon the throne of Peter, now stands as a bridge between what the Church has been and what it is about to become. What few outside realize is that Cardinal Tagle's words about Pope Leo XIV may carry layered meaning, perhaps even coded messages for those with eyes to see. When he said, "Certain hands are prepared for certain keys," many immediately recalled the keys of St. Peter, the very symbol of papal authority handed down from Christ himself. Was Tagle hinting that Pope Leo XIV is not only a pope for this hour, but for an approaching storm that will test the very soul of the Church? And was he subtly acknowledging his own possible future role in this divine orchestration? Should the chair of Peter once again be vacated under mysterious, even apocalyptic circumstances? The mystery deepens when one recalls the strange events of the conclave itself, a conclave that stunned even veteran cardinals. For it was not Tagle nor other prominent candidates who emerged, but Robert Prevost, a man few predicted, who now reigns as Leo XIV. Some believe that the Holy Spirit's hand was unmistakable. Others suspect that forces far beyond human understanding were steering the outcome toward an appointed time. But then there is the candy. The simple, almost childlike act of Tagle handing candy to Prevost as the votes surged in his favor continues to haunt observers. In spiritual circles, many have begun to dissect that moment as more than mere humor. Some point to ancient Catholic traditions in which sweetness symbolizes consolation during trial. Others suggest that Tagle was, in some mysterious way, offering a gesture of acceptance, or perhaps even a quiet recognition of a destiny neither of them could yet fully comprehend. The faithful remember that Our Lady's messages at Fatima warned of great trials to come for the Church, of bishops against bishops, of smoke entering the sanctuary, and of a time when few would recognize the true voice of the shepherd. Now, as Tagle stands at Albano, and Pope Leo XIV sits upon the throne of Peter, many are asking, have we entered the final chapter that Our Lady warned us about? Outside the Vatican walls, Marian visionaries have begun to issue quiet statements, not officially sanctioned, but spreading rapidly through the underground networks of the faithful. They speak of a great purification, of a time when the Church must pass through a spiritual crucifixion before it can be fully reborn in glory. Some even whisper that Cardinal Tagle himself may hold a secret role in this purification, whether as a future pope or as one who stands alongside the pontiff during the coming storm. Meanwhile, inside St. Peter's Basilica, certain cardinals have grown uneasy with the increasing visibility of Tagle. They know his global influence. They see his magnetic pull among the youth, the poor, the outcast. They recognize that his blend of theological orthodoxy and pastoral compassion makes him uniquely appealing to both conservatives and progressives within the Church, a rare and dangerous combination. Some fear that such popularity could position him as the natural successor in the event of any sudden or forced transition, but far more alarming are the rumors, faint, unconfirmed, but persistent, that secret conversations have already begun regarding scenarios no one wishes to contemplate. Scenarios involving forced resignations, unexpected deaths, or even a dual papacy that could trigger an unprecedented spiritual schism. As one anonymous Vatican aide was overheard saying in a hushed tone, "The winds are shifting, and when they do, it will not be a gentle breeze, but a storm that will shake the foundations of Rome." For now, Pope Leo XIV remains steadfast, his calm demeanor hiding whatever burdens he may carry. Cardinal Tagle continues his quiet ascent, always at his side, always watching, always ready. And the world, both secular and spiritual, waits breathlessly for what comes next. The sacred drama unfolding in Rome is not yet complete. In truth, it may only just be beginning. The question remains, what role does heaven have in store for Cardinal Tagle? And will his name one day be whispered as the one who leads the Church through its final trial? The silence within the Vatican grows heavier, and the eyes of heaven are watching. The bells of Rome continue to ring, but beneath their melodic chimes, something darker stirs, like distant thunder rolling just beyond the Tiber. And while the world sees smiling faces, waving cardinals, and solemn masses broadcast to millions, those within the ancient stone walls of the Vatican know that a spiritual confrontation is quietly escalating. For as Pope Leo XIV holds the chair of Peter, and as Cardinal Luis Tagle rises higher into proximity with ultimate authority, not all within the Sacred College are united. There are factions, unseen, powerful, entrenched, who do not share the same vision for the Church's future. And as Cardinal Tagle's voice grows louder, so too does the resistance from certain hidden corridors of Rome. There are whispers now of an invisible struggle, one that has been boiling for years, but is only now reaching its most dangerous stage. What the public does not see is that beneath the grand liturgies and processions, secret meetings are being held behind locked doors. Not all who wear red are aligned. There are those who fear the Pope's growing openness to purification, who resist his call to strip away worldly attachments and to refocus the Church on its divine mission. And they see in Tagle not just an ally of Leo XIV, but a threat to their decades-long stronghold. In dimly lit conference rooms, senior prelates quietly debate the unspoken questions. If Leo XIV cannot finish his mission, who will? If the Church must be broken down to be purified, will Tagle lead that dismantling? And if prophecy is true, if the third secret of Fatima is indeed unfolding, are we standing at the edge of the final war for the soul of the Church itself? Even now, confidential reports circulate inside the Secretariat of State regarding secret audiences. Unofficial emissaries, some sanctioned, some not, have been dispatched to Tagle's allies across Asia, Europe, and the Americas, gauging loyalty, probing his positions on sensitive doctrinal matters, and assessing his potential to unite both conservative and progressive factions in the event of an unforeseen sede vacante, the empty seat of Peter. And there is yet another layer, one far more unsettling. Certain archivists, deep within the Vatican Apostolic Archive, those with access to restricted documents only whispered about in public, have reportedly begun re-examining the original contents of the third secret of Fatima. Though the full secret has never been officially disclosed, those few who have read the unedited letter have always warned that it speaks of a time when a bishop clothed in white will fall, and the Church would pass through its greatest trial, with bloodshed, apostasy, and global upheaval shaking even the elect. Some within these inner circles have now drawn alarming parallels. They point to Leo XIV's surprising rise, to Cardinal Tagle's ascension to Albano, to the current global destabilization, war, moral collapse, and the rise of anti-Christian forces, and quietly ask one another, are we now seeing the living fulfillment of what Sister Lucia recorded? But even this may not be the darkest part. In recent months, select Vatican observers have begun documenting strange occurrences surrounding the two men at the center of this narrative. Anonymous insiders report inexplicable encounters during late-night vigils in St. Peter's, reports of shadowy figures seen kneeling before the tomb of St. John Paul II, cryptic messages left near the Pietà, and coded notes referencing ancient prophecies of St. Malachy, the Irish Archbishop, whose list of papal mottos may point to Leo XIV as one of the final pontiffs before the end. And yet, in public, Pope Leo XIV remains serene. His words are few, but they carry weight. At a recent private gathering with his closest advisors, a meeting from which most details remain highly classified, the Pope was overheard saying quietly, "The pruning has begun, and after the pruning the vine will bear its purest fruit." Those who heard him fell silent, for they understood. The Pope does not see his reign as one of mere governance. He sees himself as the shepherd who must guide the Church through a narrow and perilous gate, a time of trial appointed not by Rome, but by heaven itself. And standing nearest to him, always present, always watching, is Cardinal Tagle. Some now speak of a growing silent pact between them, an unspoken understanding that what is coming cannot be stopped, only prepared for. That together they have accepted the role given to them, not by men, but by the divine. And still the rumors intensify. There are claims, unconfirmed but spreading, that several powerful factions within the Curia have begun drafting secret, contingency plans that involve either accelerating Leo XIV's resignation under the guise of health, or preemptively orchestrating a conclave that could strategically position their own candidate before Tagle consolidates wider global support. But behind these maneuvers lurks a far more ancient fear, the fear of a schism. For if the Church divides, if two popes rise again, or if factions within the episcopacy declare open rebellion, the result would not merely be an internal dispute, but a fracture that could fulfill the final Fatima warning, the persecution of the Church from within. And so now, As pilgrims continue to flood St. Peter's Square, lighting candles and praying before the Blessed Sacrament, few realize that above them, behind closed windows and marble balconies, the final chess pieces may already be moving. Will the Church emerge from this coming fire purified, as Our Lady promised? Or will the forces of darkness seize this hour to wound the body of Christ as never before? The answer remains hidden, but heaven watches. The clock of prophecy continues its relentless countdown, and the names of Pope Leo XIV and Cardinal Luis Tagle are now forever etched into this unfolding mystery. As the world watches the serene facade of Vatican City, few grasp the magnitude of what now brews beneath its surface. For while Pope Leo XIV quietly carries out his duties and Cardinal Tagle stands loyally by his side, something far more chilling has begun to unfold, something even the most seasoned Vatican insiders never dared imagine. In recent days, private Vatican security reports surfaced, classified, not meant for public eyes. Strange disturbances in the Apostolic Palace at night. Unidentified figures caught briefly on hidden surveillance. Whispered conversations intercepted referencing the final unlocking. Rumors suggest that an ancient vault beneath the Vatican, sealed for centuries, may have been quietly opened under Leo XIV's private order. Inside, it's whispered, were fragments never released from the original Fatima revelation. Not simply visions of war or apostasy, but something darker. A reference to an impostor shepherd who would rise not from outside the church, but from within its very heart. A man so beloved, so trusted, that few would recognize the deception until it was too late. The implications sent shockwaves through the Pope's most trusted circle. And yet, chillingly, the documents contained no name. But it was what followed that shook them to their core. An ancient parchment, weathered and fragile, reportedly contained a single handwritten line, words believed to be directly from Sister Lucia's final private vision. The one who smiles beside Peter will one day sit upon his seat, but his reign will be the test of the bride. Silence swept the room. All eyes, slowly and without a word, turned to the man whose loyalty has never been questioned. The man elevated to Albano. The man who placed the ring of the fisherman on Leo. Fof's hand, the man the world adores, Cardinal Luis Tagle. The prophecy was never about Leo XIV alone. The true test may still be coming, and none of them saw it.